ZeNEX.Yong as the blue Protoss at the top left-hand corner of ZeKudos Rift. And down at the bottom right-hand corner, we have got his opponent Saladin, who's currently 2-0 in this series. And if he wins one more, it will close it out, and he will take home that $100 prize.
All right, so here we have it. So ZeKudos Rift is an interesting map because you actually have 3 tiers or levels. You have your main on high ground. You pass to your natural, which is pretty easy to hold on to. It's pretty expandable. Pretty wide right here, but nothing like, Metalopolis or Xel'Naga Caverns or anything like that. Your third, you have a couple of different options. You have the base over on the right-hand side, or if you're down at the bottom on the left-hand side, which is pretty easy to defend, but there are destructible rocks leading up to the path there, which is actually kind of a clever way to go about it. And then you also have the pocket expansion, which I've seen a few players favor, especially Terran players. Pretty easy to defend the choke points there with siege tanks. And then in the middle, you have 2 Xel'Naga towers, but they actually don't watch the attack paths around the gold bases around the outside, so not complete Xel'Naga coverage, but all combat is actually fought on the low ground, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, all combat is fought on the low ground, and I kind of refer to this map as a little bit of having the lords of the feud rising over the peasants below, and essentially you are the general at the top of your base, and you send all your army men to fight in the valley of death below. And it's kind of the way the map works. I mean, basically you expand bottom, down, 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 and then down on the battlefield is where all the blood is spilled.
There was, it reminds me where I grew up, actually. I grew up in a valley, Flatwoods Road, and so both sides of the road went down, and our road was in the middle of the ground. It was all farmland. We were actually like the first people to have less than 200 acres. We had 5, you know, tiny little plot, well, not tiny, but our little plot, tiny compared to all the farmers that were sitting there. And then at one end of the valley, this house was built a couple years after ours. It was like 3 stories tall, had full glass back. It was like a $500,000, $600,000 house or something like that. Now, to put that in perspective, if you would drop that house into the middle of San Francisco, probably be worth like $10 million. Okay, so this was an enormous house, and it just lorded over all the peasants, us peasants that were sitting in the farmland below. So well, I understand the feeling.
Well, that's okay, because let me ask you this: are there any minerals or Vespine geysers in the middle of that valley?
Unfortunately, no. So
it's not as
if
cool
if by Vespine gas you mean cow dung, then yes, lots of it.
Yeah, that could be a source of methane's a source of gas.
Yes, it's true.
It's a type of gas.
Look at this! They both have their second gas, and it's their own second gas and not their opponent's.
Wow.
It's not been stolen. And we actually have Saladin going ahead and producing a Stalker right away. The same thing coming up for Yong as well, although his Stalker was just a teensy bit delayed as he did decide to put up his second gateway a little bit quicker.
So obviously a lot of options here for a Protoss player that decides to grab a second gas right away. Immediately what comes to mind is Quick Tech in the Twilight Council. Also Robotics Facility can be played out as well. We may even see a Stargate play that we saw in the other Protoss versus Protoss game. So there's a lot of different things that can happen here with that quick second gas, and I'm excited to see which way these guys go, because obviously they're banking up those gas deposits, and Vespine's very important for your technology.
And looks like the Xel'Naga Tower, there's a little fight for it. Saladin runs away. Probe on probe action. He's just going to wait for his old friend, the Stalker, to catch up. And Yong immediately backs up to his own Stalker.
A probe and a Stalker out of peace in the middle of the field right now, and there's that Valley of Death that I was talking about in the middle where those Xel'Naga towers are, and there is a robotics facility. Stargate coming up from ZeNEX.Yong.
Alright, so 4-gate versus 2-gate Stargate. ZeNEX.Yong is going to be way down on units, but we're going to see if he can actually pull this off. If we get a situation similar to game number 1, but clever positioning out of Saladin's probe could warp up some units here onto the high ground.
The difference here, I think, is that Saladin is going to have more sentries rather than stalkers because he got that second gas. That's the only thing that really makes sense to me. And because of that, I would imagine that the Phoenixes are maybe going to be a little bit more effective, because then they can just focus down on a couple of stalkers rather than having to deal with a bunch of stalkers on the ground.
Uh-oh, Saladin's got to watch out. Oh, loses a Stalker. Looks like he's more concerned about warping in units at the front. But Yong actually has the opportunity to run in and do some significant damage. Saladin has nothing left over, but he himself is going to walk in with 4 Stalkers now, and there's not much out. A Chrono Boost is thrown down, but Yong is supply blocked.
Wow, so he's just focusing totally on Stalkers right now. His main has been breached by 4 Stalkers. He will not be able to mine. In fact, he's just mining. He's just warping and everything on the offensive. So we're just going to have a straight-up base race right now between the 2 players.
Oh my god, this game has gotten crazy quick. Here comes Saladin now. Those Zealots are going to perform so well against the probes, and we have a full-on retreat. Everything from Saladin making its way out of there.
I think he's going to use the probes offensively.
And Yong is actually running away with his probes as well. We may actually have a meeting of the probes here in the middle.
The peasants are going to fight in the middle of the Valley of Death.
They just run by each other, and we have a full-on base trade.
Oh, this is awesome. So both players just going to go at it at each other. Probes being used to fight as well. Let's just look at the units tab there. We can get a good gauge as to who's ahead. Oh. And really, it looks like Saladin has a lot more army.
Well, it's 4 Zealots, but he's down by 2 Stalkers. So
and he's also down by 4 probes.
Theoretically, with perfect control, I think Yong takes this. But oh, this is just insane.
I don't know, man. It's so hard to perfectly control all 3 types of units: probes,
yeah,
Zealots, and Stalkers.
Oh my god. Every one of these games has just been nuts.
It's actually going to come down straight up to a base race, and I don't know if ZeNEX.Yong has a building on the map. Oh, he has a pylon.
Just put one down here.
Okay, so he is hiding a pylon somewhere on the map, and this is it. It's going to be a straight up base race between the 2 players, and they're both locked at 34 supply apiece. So actually, it's pretty even between these 2, and it's really just going to come down to impeccable micro. Whoever has the best micro is going to win this game. And if Saladin wins it, don't forget he will win the series.
And looks like, oh, Saladin, wait, see,
base is being revealed.
His opponent should be revealed. Yeah, so all he's got to do, oh, but there's an assimilator coming up as well. Saladin should be doing the exact same thing, planting an assimilator
He doesn't have enough minerals to make an assimilator.
Oh, you're right. Oh, they're so high HP.
But his 2 buildings are protected in the back. He can actually camp his 2 buildings for a very long time. So
yeah,
it's really gonna be a crazy game here. The thing is, Saladin can kind of control the middle of the map. ZeNEX.Yong cannot push out. Yong has to stay on his side of the field, and he cannot push out because his only building is tucked away in the back of his base. Although it looks like he's leaving his probes to defend while he moves out with his main army. This is very interesting decision making from ZeNEX.Yong, and I think this may end up costing him. He's got to be very, very careful. He can actually pick off some key probes right here. That's important.
And he does. 2 probes go down. A third almost did. It's down to its last hit. And here we go. Here comes the engagement now. Yong being pushed back at the moment. He's got to bring his probes forward to engage as well.
30 to 34 supply. So Yong taking a couple of pot shots here. Those are absolutely important. Every single unit here is so big. 29 to 34 supply now. And I don't know if Saladin really wants to run up this ramp. I don't know if I agree with this, Cats.
And the Zealots are going to try and do as much as they can, but Yong's just going to sit here and pick off Zealots. That's all he wants to do. He's actually gained a pretty big advantage now. There's a few probes left over and a couple of Zealots.
16 to 17 supply. He's got a micro perfectly here. He's down to basically 6 Stalkers versus 4 Stalkers.
Oh my god!
The Zealot and the probes doing some good damage. He's going to kill off every Stalker though, and that is huge. This is huge. I think that ZeNEX.Yong is going to win.
Oh my god. These probes are just trying to catch up and they can't deal enough damage.
10 to 9 supply. That Stalker is so close to dying.
Oh,
that Stalker is so close to dying!
This one is as well, but the last Zealot has just gone down, and that's it! Saladin GG's!
Oh, wow.
And Yong comes back, takes game number 3, sending this to game number 4.
No,